Hey guys, it's Kylie here with Kylie's Canine Boot Camp. Today we will be going over off-leash training. We have Gage and Mazikeen both right here. Mazikeen got a new collar, so if you see something bright and shiny and cute on her, that's her new collar. It is a martingale, so it should be up here, but her odd shape will not let it stay up there. So for off-leash training, as you can see, really they both are off-leash trained. Her I will keep on a leash sometimes because if the next door neighbor's dog is out, I don't want her to bolt off after him. I don't think she would, but she's just so young right now that there's still that chance that she's gonna get frisky one day and decide to run off. So, Gage is really good off leash. He came good off leash when we got him at 18 months old. He was trained that way because they let him out all day and he ran around. So, the first step of off-leash training is recall training. If you think that your dog can be off-leash, your dog has to be really good at recall. So if you walk away, you should be able to say, come here. Good boy. Mazikeen, come. Good girl. So you should be able to recall your dogs. If you can't recall your dog, don't take them off the leash, because if they're not coming when you call them, they're going to take off and they're not going to care when you call their name. So you want to make sure that recall is down solid. Next step, walking good on a leash at all. You have to be able to walk your dog with a pretty loose leash if you plan to use it outside of your yard where you could be out in public. If you are one of those people that may have to use this outside of your own yard, you want to make sure that they can keep a really good heel without a leash or with a really loose leash. That would be the first step to that. But recall training is extremely important even if you're just going to keep them in the yard. The next step would be to get a very long line like this. This is a 20-foot leash, so she has all the room in the world to run around and feel like she's free, but she's really not. And it still gives me control, so if she does try to take off, she can't go anywhere. She's hooked up to a leash. Once you have that, you can kind of give them the freedom to do whatever they want, and then work on recall with that. With this on, that's what you want to work on recall with. Let them run around, let them get comfortable, and then recall them, and just continue to do that and reward for when they do come back to you when you call. Now she's pretty good about, if she has to go to the bathroom, she'll go off and go to the bathroom and then she comes right back to me. He's the same way. Sometimes he'll take some time to kind of sniff around and explore, and I allow him to do that in his own yard. But he's so good at just being off leash that from the day I got him, I could probably walk him down the road. Although, no, the day that we got him, he would have gone after another dog if he saw one. But if he didn't see another dog, he would have been completely fine to walk down the road without a leash on and stay at a pretty good heel. Even though he wasn't really trained to heel, he just did it. Mazikeen, however, if I took her on a walk at this point in her training, she would not stay by my side. She would go off. It's just too risky. She kind of stays towards the middle of the road, and it would be a little bit too risky because she could get hit by a car. So at this point in her training, I would not take her off of the property with off leash. She would still be on a leash. So, once you have a recall down and your dog is really good with a loose leash, they come back every single time that you call them, and I mean every single time. This is too dangerous to not have it 100%, because if the dog decides to take off, now we're risking, what if the dog were to attack someone else? What if another animal were to attack your dog? What if your dog got hit by it? There's just so many things that could go wrong with that your dog has to be very solid. Good boy. Good boy. So right now she's going off on her own, kind of, but she's still staying a pretty good distance of me, and she's also looking back at me when she feels like she's starting to get too far. But I'm giving her that freedom because she's on this long leash anyway, so it doesn't really matter. She can do whatever. I'm walking with her so she can potty. That's basically keep them on a long leash at first, because if at this very moment someone walks by, she's very much so a human dog. She would rather get reactive to, she's more likely to run towards a person than she would be another dog. So if a person were to walk through our yard for whatever reason right now, she would try to take off. So keeping them on a long leash is the safest bet at the beginning of the training, and then recalling them. Yeah, good girl. And then recall and reward. Reward does not always have to be treats with this, but at the beginning you do want to treat them to make them coming back to you worth it. If there's nothing in it for the dog is not going to do it. Once they have that down, you can take the leash off. Again, this is a 20-foot leash, so you want to try to keep that. Take the leash off. Keep in And younger dogs, as they get older, they can hit that 10-month period where a lot of times dogs will get more stubborn. They don't want to do what you're asking of them. Keep in mind that they may go through that period and you may have to put them back on the leash and just reinforce that training again. She's 6 months old, so there's a possibility as she gets older, I'm just going to have to reinforce her training with off leash. She's not off leash super often in the backyard, but she does for practicing, things like that. And Gage is always off leash in the backyard because he is perfect. He's perfect on it. So, once the dog is good on this, an e-collar is not a bad idea. An e-collar allows you to be able to touch the dog from no matter how far it is. So, let's say the dog is not coming back when you call. You would just call their name, ask them to come back, and do a little buzz to vibrate against their neck, and then they're like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Some people use the e-collar as a reinforcer of a command. You can do that too, or you can use it as a corrective tool. Either way, as long as you're using it as long as you're using it properly and safely, it's not going to hurt the dog. It's perfectly fine to use it. It's really, really good for off-leash training. Mazzy, come here. Come here, you're
Go. Go. There you go.
Good girl. Hey, ow. Good girl. So as you can see, she did take a little bit more time. She didn't just say when I said come. So you may need to use a little bit more excitement, especially in puppies and puppies that want to go inside really bad. I have to use a little bit more excitement at times like that to convince her that I want her over here, not inside. But they also do know certain commands, which is also helpful. They know, do you want to go inside? Then they'll go to the door. It's also helpful to have those commands because then if they look like they might run off, you just say, okay, let's go inside, and they go to the door. Basically how I taught that is I just kept, as soon as I was taking them inside from potty, I would say, let's go inside, and now they both know, let's go inside. Anyways, recall, long line recall, so they have about 20 feet to get away from you, and they have to come back every single time that you call them. And then you can use an e-collar for off-leash so that if they do try to take off, you can just tap and they'll come back, hopefully. You may get that dog that still does not listen with the e-collar. You may have to adjust the vibration, make sure that you get that done before letting them just go off-leash. And then at that point, you should be able to just do whatever. Gage, as you can tell, because I have food, he's really right here. He's usually not. He usually is off doing his own thing like Mazzy is doing. But when there's food around, he is probably the most focused animal on the planet and will wait as long as he needs to wait to get a treat. I am keeping an eye on her at all times. One, she is still a puppy, so you never know when something new is going to come out and she could get interested and take off. Keep that in mind. You cannot just let your dog off leash in a backyard, especially if it's not fenced. Even if it is fenced, you should still monitor the dog. Dogs are smart. If you have a bigger breed, there's a good chance they can jump over it. Some dogs will dig under it. He did both when we first got him. He jumped over the fence, and when we added it higher, he found a way to dig under the fence to go see the border collie next door. So you still should monitor your dog, or at least don't leave them out there for very long if you can't, even if they have pretty good off-leash training. That's basically it for off-leash training in the backyard. If you're wanting to take them out in public, the e-collar is probably the best scenario for you there. It's going to be the best way for you to be able to just tug. Most dogs, they have corrective commands, so with Gage, if he were to break a heel, which is very, very rare when out in public, I can just and he goes straight back to the heel. Sometimes he might get a little bit ahead or a little bit behind. If he's behind, I just say, come on, come on. So he gets back up there. So having those verbal cues to let them know I don't like what you're doing is good. Another thing is making sure that they have the heel command down super well. Recall still needs to be down super well. And then using an e-collar is not a bad idea. It is probably going to be the easiest thing to use without risking your dog taking off and getting injured in some way, shape, or form. With this, sure, you could get away with the sit being not perfect. You could get away with a down being not perfect. I don't know how that would really not be not perfect, except for like you're not doing it every single time you ask. But this cannot be This has to be 100%. The dog has to be solid on this. It's just too risky for it not to be. If it were to take off, there's a good chance it could get injured. That's how plenty of pets get injured or killed, and nobody wants that. So please, 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 please make sure that the dog is 100% down with everything else before just letting them off leash. Madison started off leash training basically the day I got her. Why? Because in the scenario that she were to get outside, I want to make sure, like let's say she slipped out the door one day, I want to make sure that I have perfect recall with her and she'll just come right back inside. It's a good thing for every single pet to know, but for people, especially for people who have SDs and they have mobility issues, and walking their pet around outside all the time isn't the easiest thing, or someone who gets seizures or passes out and they might be out in public, holding the dog's leash can become dangerous because you might end up hurting the dog while you're knocked out. So being able to let them go and knowing that they're going to stay there is a good thing. Because if you were to have a seizure, if you were to pass out, something like that, where you could not be conscious enough to take control of your dog, we don't want the dog running off or something happening to the dog because it ran off, because it freaked out, whatever the scenario. Make sure you practice that too at home. You can also practice it outside. So if you are someone that passes out, it's not a bad idea. Keep them on the long line so they have room to move, and then just pretend to pass out in your backyard. That way it is still, especially if you don't have a fenced-in yard, it is still an open space where they could think about running off, but you still have the leash in your hand. So that way you do still have control if they do decide to take off, but you will also figure out what is the dog going to do. Is it going to do everything that it's been trained to do task-wise, or is it going to try to take off because you're unconscious and the dog either sees that as a weak point, or they just want to leave because they freak out, whatever the reasoning would be, or they just get bored and walk away. So you just know, better of what your dog is going to do in that scenario. There's a lot of dog breeds that if they know that you're weak and they have a spot out, they are more likely to do that. A lot of bully breeds are those dogs. A lot of protection breeds, guarding breeds, those breeds are the breeds that are more likely to take advantage of the situation. Questions, comments, concerns, go in the comment section. We do have an Instagram now. It's just Kylie's Service K9. So you can go ahead and give it a follow. You can also message me more ideas on that because I know on Facebook sometimes it gets lost. That's everything. Masking's over there, Gage is over there, and as always, we love you.
Goodbye.